my name's Justine Ginsberg and I'm your host for Health Matters, a public health education show produced by the Farmington Valley Health District. Today we're going to talk about summer food safety. Now, the beautiful hot weather has arrived and many of us are enjoying outdoor entertaining, grilling, picnicking, heading to the beach. And at the Health District, we often get many inquiries about food safety during this time of year. We are fortunate today to have Laurie Brennan with us, who is our Food Services Coordinator at Farmington Valley Health District. And believe me, she is the expert in all things related to food. So welcome to Health Matters, Laurie.
Thank you, Justine. It's nice to be here.
So summer is upon us, and I know my family are huge fans of grilling. Is there anything we should think about in terms of food safety when it comes to the grill?
You know, grilling in summertime is a very popular activity, and particularly in the summer with the warm temperatures, we want to, above all, make sure that foods are kept at cold temperatures, particularly things that you're grilling, poultry, fish, beef products, steaks, hamburgers, hot dogs. We want to make sure they're kept at a cold temperature before they go on the grill, and once on the grill, they're cooked to a hot enough temperature that they're going to kill any bacteria that may be in them.
Well, you know, it's always the debate in our house, because, you know, we're kind of a high frequency grilling family, and once you get the meat products on the grill, they always look so lovely and brown. You know, how do I know when they're cooked? Because they look good.
They do. You can't, however, go by just appearance alone, because that can be deceiving. So probably one of the most important things that you can have in your kitchen, and particularly for summer grilling, is to have a food thermometer. So I didn't bring many things today, but I did bring a couple of
show and tell is always good on Health Matters.
So this is probably one of the least expensive thermometers that you can get. Probably under $10 at any hardware store, department store.
Okay.
This is called a bimetallic thermometer. It's very easy to use. You simply take the thermometer out of its case, you insert it into the food item, you leave it for about 15 to 20 seconds, and then you're able to read the dial as far as what the temperature is. This is one style of thermometer that's great to have. Another thermometer style is a digital thermometer, a little bit more expensive. You can get it, again, at any hardware store, kitchen store, department store in the houseware section. It's a little bit easier to read because you don't have to rely so much on reading these very small numbers.
Yeah, so for the folks at home, this particular thermometer actually has numbers on it, whereas this one I think is digital.
This one has a digital readout. Very, very simple to read, simple to use. Couple advantages to this one is that it is easy to read and it's very quick reading. It reads right at the tip of the thermometer, whereas this one you actually have to insert the thermometer about an inch to get an accurate reading. Now these are great. However, if you don't know what the food temperature should be, these aren't going to do you a whole lot of good. So, you know, what you can do is go to our own website, fehd.org, and we have a list of the required food cooking temperatures for steaks or burgers or hot dogs or fish, poultry. You very easily can find any kind of chart on the USDA website in addition to ours. Poultry in general should be cooked to 165 or above to kill any potential bacteria in that food item. Things like steaks, hamburgers, a little bit different. Steaks can be cooked to as low as, well, as low as someone would prefer it if they like their steak
that whole
rare.
the blue steak, the rare steak,
That's right. In general, a well-done steak will be cooked to 145 or higher degrees Fahrenheit. The tricky thing about hamburgers is that ground beef, there is the potential for more contamination with that food product. So that should be cooked to a slightly higher temperature to make sure it's cooked through, approximately 158. So again, these are great if you have them, but if you don't then know what the temperatures should be, they're not doing you a whole lot of good.
So you could almost print off one of those temperature guides and maybe have it stuck on the side of your refrigerator. You know, that seems like a great, you know, a routine to get into whenever you're cooking meats.
That's right.
To make sure that you do actually take the temperature of what it is you're about to eat. Is there a particular place, you know, on a piece of meat? So, you know, let's take our lovely plum.
Yes.
you know, if this was a small steak, you know, where should I actually insert the thermometer? Should it be right in the top or the side?
You really want to go to the thickest part of the food product. So if you're doing, for instance, chicken parts, you know, on the thigh, you really want to get it to that real meaty, thickest, densest part. Same with the steak. As long as you're getting a nice internal temperature in the interior of that product, if you're obviously towards the surface or along the outside, it's going to be higher because it's near the heat source. But the key is getting it into that deeper spot, so you truly get the you know, the reading that's truly representative of what that entire piece is.
Wow, so there really is an awful lot more to taking the temperature of foods than you would think. So at the office, I often hear you and your food team talking about food separation, and I kind of laugh in the background and think, you know, are you talking about divorce here? What does that mean? Like, what does it mean to separate food?
Well, another thing with grilling particularly, and with general storage just in your home refrigerator, you always want to make sure your raw products, your raw meats, fish or poultry, are stored separately from things like produce or ready-to-eat foods. Because again, the likelihood of a piece of meat being contaminated with a bacteria when it comes to you is higher than some other products. So you want to make sure that they don't come in contact and or drip onto other items that you might not be cooking to a high temperature and or are considered ready to eat. Someone's going to grab a piece of fruit right out of the fridge and eat it, for instance.
And if our chicken's been defrosting on the top, we kind of end up with
We worry about what we call cross-contamination, which is that raw product contaminating another product.
So it's not just, you know, I always thought of food separation in terms of the preparation like we talked about, but it's also in how we store our food.
In how we store it, and particularly with grilling, you want to make sure that when you're taking out to the grill your platter of your raw meats or fish or poultry, that is kept separate from the platter you're using for your cooked products.
So you're not bringing it back in on the platter you took it out on.
That's correct. That's
okay.
Correct. And the same with the utensils, whether they be a spatula, tongs. You want to make sure that you do practice that good separation with those. Same with cutting boards.
Sure.
If you are preparing you know, cutting or trimming any of the poultry before it goes out to the grill. You want to make sure that that cutting board is not used then for cutting tomatoes or slicing bread or slicing hamburger or hot dog rolls, unless it's completely washed and sanitized in between those two tasks.
So it really is, I mean, when you think about entertaining, I suppose some are entertaining, and you know, I want to ask you about potlucks, but I suppose from what we've talked about, it really is about thinking through what it is you're about to do before you do it, and just sense checking, you know, when did I last use the tongs, what was on this platter before, so that you keep everybody safe in your house.
Absolutely.
So, you know, moving on to potlucks, and again, it's an all-time favorite in the Ginsberg household. You know, large potlucks, everybody bring a dish. Are there things I should be thinking about before I send out a potluck invitation?
Well, yeah, I mean, you know, one of the things, you certainly don't want to, you know, insult your guests, but one thing that perhaps you can do is ask people to bring items that are perhaps less hazardous.
Okay.
You know, maybe in the house where the potluck is being held, that's the household that prepares the main dish, the meat, the poultry, the fish. Some of the salads, for instance, and maybe some of your guests can bring things like, you know, the bread or the desserts or the beverages or those types of things. The other thing that you can do is, you know, when you're assigning, if you will, or asking folks to bring things, you know, you maybe mention to them, particularly if they're coming from a distance. You know, and again, you have to be polite. You don't want to be rude and insult your guests, but you want to maybe broach that subject of transporting it in a safe manner.
All right. So, you know, again, whenever I seem to host at my house, I swear I think I'm feeding the Russian army whenever people come to my home. There's always lots of leftovers. I like to give people leftovers to take home. Is there something we should be thinking about in dividing up the leftover spoils?
Well, first of all, when you're determining what is left over that can be shared with other folks or even for yourselves in the home, you want to be conscious of how long has that food been out, how has it been held. For instance, if you have a long service period when the foods are out on the table for an extended period of time, you know, you never want to, for instance, have foods out for longer than a 2-hour period,
Okay.
and then come back and be reused or sent home with guests. But if they are taking food products home, I mean, you can buy small little insulated bags. Maybe you can send your guests home with one of that. And or you package the leftovers in such a way that around them you put them in a larger bag or container that perhaps has some ice in it. You maybe want to have the discussion with them before they leave. Are you going right home? How far a distance do you have to travel? You know, if someone is leaving your home and then going to run errands for the better part of the afternoon in the heat and the hot sun in the car, you know, maybe it's best that they don't take any leftovers home. Or they're given leftovers that are safe at that temperature, that aren't so temperature sensitive.
Like bread.
Bread, yeah.
Take home the undrunk wine. So it's interesting you say that. My son is usually guilty of going somewhere and bringing home pizza and then leaving it in the back of his car and forgetting completely about it. And then the next morning we'll come in and say, "Hey, Mum, can I just heat the life out of the pizza?" No,
not a good idea.
Okay.
Now it is true that some bacteria in a food item are killed at a high heat. That is true, but there are other bacteria that are not killed at that high heat, and or they produce a toxin or a spore, which then, despite that heating, can survive. So, you know, in a case like that, really you don't want to use anything that has been out for an extended period, and we usually use 2 hours as that general rule.
Okay.
Obviously, the quicker you can keep food, the quicker you can get foods away and keep them under temperature control is great. But something like that, no. I mean, the adage is true: when in doubt,
throw it out.
Yes, yes.
I will let Alex know that 3-day-old pizza in the back of his car is not safe.
Not a good idea. Not a good idea.
So the other thing I wanted to ask about, one of my favourite things over summer is potato salad, and I'm a true believer that it's always better the next day. I don't know what it is about potato salad. It's like pasta sauce, the longer it sits.
Yes.
Are there some foods we need to be a little more careful about than others at summertime? I mean, I recognise we eat differently in the summertime. You know, wintertime we're heating everything.
Right.
That day-old potato salad maybe not such a great idea.
Yeah, things like, you know, potato salads or macaroni salads, even fruit salads, depending on the types of fruits they contain. Yes, you do need to be careful. And again, you have that combination of the dressings and or mayonnaise with different types of products, whether they be chicken for a chicken salad. Potatoes, which cooked potatoes, are considered hazardous. So when we combine those types of things with the mayonnaise, we really do have a very good environment for bacterial growth. So, you know, again, we want to keep those types of foods under good temperature control, and that will reduce the bacterial load and or eliminate its growth. The thing to keep in mind is that we have what we refer to as the danger zone. And the danger zone...
And that's not a Tom Cruise movie.
No, it is not. It's a term we use all the time with the restaurants that we inspect in our food service facilities. And the danger zone is between 45 degrees and 140 degrees Fahrenheit. It's kind of a room temperature zone.
All right.
Bacteria thrives and grows very fast in that zone. So we want to keep foods out of that zone.
Okay.
Meaning below 41 or less is our requirement for your cold foods, and or hot foods above 140. So we want to keep foods out of there because bacteria, it's a living organism like ourselves. You know, our body temperature is 98.6 generally. Bacteria loves that temperature range, and they're going to grow very quickly if things like potato salad or macaroni salad, you know, tuna salad, shrimp salad, any of those are kept at in that zone.
Wow. So now we're talking about temperatures and danger zones. It makes me want to ask about my refrigerator, because I not only have an internal refrigerator in my house, which is a more modern one, and it has the little, you know, temperature digital thing at the top. And I know that in the summertime, with, you know, our sons and daughters home from college, you know, my refrigerator never seems to be as cold as it is during the winter, because they're into it, they're out of it.
Out, sure.
So at least I can look at the top, but I also have a drinks fridge in my garage, which is about 700 years old and kind of makes that clicking sound when you walk past it. There's no such thing as a thermometer inside. How do I know if it's a temperature?
Well, very easy. So we talked about having a food thermometer in the kitchen itself. You also want to get some sort of model of refrigerator thermometer.
Okay.
And there's many different styles and types. This one is convenient. It hooks right on the racks. Again, you want to make sure your refrigerators are kept at 41 degrees or less.
Okay.
I know mine at home is fairly new. It always maintains a constant temperature of 36 degrees. Even better, the colder the better. But it's as easy as using one of these portable thermometers that, again, very inexpensive, maybe $5, $6 for one of these. And it's a little insurance policy. Have it mounted in the front of the refrigerator, which is the warmest spot, because it's being opened and closed. I always suggest to folks an easy place to put it where it doesn't get misplaced or moved or dropped is in the little door where you have the little compartment to put the butter. It's right in there, it's protected, and it's the warmest spot of the refrigerator. So this is really what you want to have, even though it's an older unit, and particularly if it's only used for things like drinks, this will be just fine to monitor.
You can guarantee when I'm having a potluck, it also gets the surge capacity of the potato salad.
It does.
So it needs to be at that 41 degrees.
It does.
All right, that's a great tip.
Right.
Okay, so the other thing I wanted to ask about is, so we've talked about grilling and we've talked about potlucks. What about when we travel? So again, the summertime, my family loves to go to the beach or go down to the lake, go on picnics, and you know, as a typical large family, we're packing up eskies and coolers, and you know, we're headed out for the day. What do I need to think about? Maybe not just what sort of food should I be taking, but how should I be storing it and what should I be watching out for?
So again, very common sense. You want to make sure that you do have enough coolers for the food that you're bringing. One thing that we suggest to folks when they're doing barbecues and cookouts and traveling is to perhaps have a separate cooler for your raw meats, poultry, fish, etc. Have a separate one then for your condiments, your salads, your ready-to-eat foods, because that way we're really keeping those two things separately and avoiding that cross-contamination. But again, the key is temperature. You can certainly, again, take one of these little portable thermometers and tuck them in each cooler. Adequate amount of ice packs. You know, they have actually nice little ice blankets now that they're called, which are flexible and they fit over the top of the cooler. And if you load the bottom with the ice and the food and then put the ice blanket on the top, very, very effective at making sure everything is kept cold. And then maybe in the car, if the car is very hot or warm, you know, you can even take like a blanket and lay it over the cooler so it protects it from the sun's rays. When you get to your destination, if you're, you know, at the beach or whatnot, it's probably better to not leave that cooler in the car where it's closed up and getting hotter and hotter above 100 degrees. Take it out. And bring it with you. And then maybe down at the beach or, you know, at the picnic grove, you have, you know, you store it in the shade. Or you have a canopy, you know, over the area, so it's not exposed unduly to the sun.
So I suppose now we're talking about traveling in the car with food. It makes me think automatically of those long, hot summer days when I have the enviable task of the supermarket shopping. And there I go out. I'm never one to just go to one supermarket. They never stock everything you need, so you're here, you're there, and you know, you get in and out of that hot, toasty car, and you've now got groceries from 2 or 3 different stores. I should be thinking about this, shouldn't I?
You should. So, you know, when you're in the supermarket, and if it's the case that you're bagging your own groceries or not, if someone is there bagging them for you, bring in those insulated bags. You know, a lot of folks bring in their own bags now anyway for packing their groceries. So have a few insulated bags, which specifically are for your refrigerated or your frozen items when the groceries are being bagged at the end of your sale. When you bring them out to the car, you know, that's probably not the best time, again, to go run errands and to have an extended time period in the car. But the other thing that you can do, again, is, you know, have perhaps a towel or a blanket of some sort in the car. Bring along the cooler. If you know you're purchasing perishable items, what we call potentially hazardous items, you know, prepare for that. Do your marketing first thing in the morning as opposed to the afternoon when it's at its hottest. But you do want to be a little planful.
Wow. You know, you are a font of knowledge, and there's so many things I want to talk to you about, but we've only got a few more minutes left, so I want to cover just 2 more things. One is summer fruits, and I know that, you know, this is the time when all of us like to eat, you know, cherries and cantaloupes and really enjoy the bounty of the summer. Are there things we need to think about in terms of safety and eating summer fruits?
There are. One type of fruit in particular is something to be concerned with. First of all fruits and vegetables should be washed before they're eaten. That is something that you absolutely want to do. The one exception may be some of the lettuce mixes that you may buy at the store pre-bagged. Many times those are pre-washed, and they will say so right on the label. We worry about people taking them out of the bags if pre-washed and washing them again because they may subject that food to contamination in their own kitchen, sadly. So that's something that you don't have to worry so much about. But fruits and vegetables must be washed. Melons are considered hazardous. So a whole melon, whether it be cantaloupe or watermelon or honeydew, when you purchase it at the store or the farm stand, at room temperature, a whole melon, completely safe. It has a protective rind or peel that does protect it from bacterial contamination. However, once you cut into those melons, and again, you're cutting into the melon, let's use this as an example with your knife. If this is not washed, what's on the outside with your knife, going right down into the flesh of the fruit. So cantaloupes, honeydew, and watermelon, once cut, lose that protective barrier. They then are treated as hazardous. They must, once cut, chopped, peeled, be kept cold. They can no longer be kept at room temperature. And very interestingly enough, the same thing goes for tomatoes. Whole tomatoes, not a problem at room temperature. They grow on the vine, they're outdoors, they're on your counter ripening. But once you've washed them, then cut, sliced, chopped, diced, they have to be kept cold or hot. They should not be kept at room temperature.
Wow, so as we're coming to the close of the show, is there like a take-home message for the folks at home about healthy eating during summer?
Well, it's great. I mean, we're so fortunate that we live in an area where there are fresh fruits and vegetables and many farm products, and that's great. However, you do have to be proactive. You do want to make sure that you're washing all your produce. You're keeping your meats and your poultry, eggs, and milk products at a cold enough temperature. And I'd be remiss also if I didn't mention hand washing. That's probably the most important thing that you can be doing when you're preparing food, serving food. Make sure you do have that pump soap available in the kitchen, and folks are washing their hands before food preparation, after visiting the restroom, going outdoors, handling any pets, and in between handling different types of foods such as raw chicken, raw hamburger, etc. We want to avoid that cross-contamination. But if you're practicing good hand washing, good food storage with that separation of raw and cooked, and having good cold food temperatures before cooking, you're getting leftovers away quickly once they have been served, you should be safe.
So if the folks at home have any questions about perhaps food preparation, or they're not sure of the temperatures or where to get a thermometer, or anything really to do with like food safety, it's summertime or other times, are they able to contact us at Farmington Valley?
Absolutely. We take a lot of calls from the public, particularly in the summer. We welcome the calls. We also have some great information and some links on our website at fvhd.org. And there are a number of other great websites. USDA, Connecticut Department of Ag has a good website. And I saw, I believe, a Facebook post we had just the other day about the great farmers markets in the area, where you can get a variety of fresh fruits and produce and agricultural products. So yeah, it's absolutely. Feel free. Anyone can feel free to contact us.
Wonderful, Laurie. Well, thank you so much for coming. As we discovered today, there are many things we need to consider about entertaining during the summer. There are specific precautions we need to take when transporting food, when preparing it, and when storing it. We've learned that all thermometers are not created equal, and when and where to use them. Laurie has given us plenty of helpful information about troubleshooting problems that may arise with food over the summer period, and as always, Farmington Valley Health District has plenty of information, and you can access us online at www.fvhd.org, or of course on our Facebook site, FVHD. Thank you for watching today, and until next time, remember your greatest wealth is your health.